What is up, everybody? This is Danny Rocksteady. Thanks for checking out another episode. In today's video, I'm partnering up with my old friends at Car Trim Home to do a quick upgrade on the RAV4's steering wheel. So this new steering wheel is going to provide a sportier design and also include a heated element feature. So it's going to be definitely a nice upgrade for my 2019 RAV4 Adventure, which didn't come with the technology package or the heated seats. This is going to add a little bit of the features that I wasn't able to get. Overall install should be pretty easy. Let's go ahead and tackle it. One of the first steps of actually removing the factory steering wheel is going to be removing the airbag module itself, which is basically this part. It's also your horn, but this is also where your airbag is located. The way we're going to remove this, there's going to be 3 holes around this column right here. There's one right here, one on the opposite end, and then also one at the bottom. If you have a punch or a pen or something like that, you'll be able to just press it in there, and then you'll be able to hit the clip that will disconnect this. I will show you on the new steering wheel what you're going to be looking for. So each of those holes will lead you to these metal pins right here, and essentially what you'll do is when you get into the hole, let's see if I can do this with it held up right here. So you'll get into the hole and then you'll press on the clip like this, so you can see that, and then that will disconnect that will unclip that part of the steering wheel. You'll do that on all 3 corners, and then the steering wheel should pop off, and then we'll be able to hit the next step. It doesn't take much pressure to unclip these, so if you find yourself fighting the whatever you're poking in here, then you're probably in the wrong spot. As long as you are able to find the spring itself, it just takes a little bit of pressure and it'll make a audible click, and you'll know that it'll pop out. For the bottom one, there is a lot more play in terms of the angle that you're able to go in with the screwdriver. Really, it's straight up to get to the spring itself. So a couple tips for this part. Shouldn't take very long. I was able to disconnect mine in about 2 minutes, so it's not that big of a deal. And then once you have it removed, as you can see, there's going to be a couple things we're going to need to disconnect before we're able to completely remove and set aside the airbag. We're going to remove these 2 clips, these 2 ports here. The way that's going to be done is lifting these orange tabs, and then we'll be able to get these plugs out of the way. And then the ground here is just a simple spade connector, so we can easily pull that out, and then we'll be able to disconnect and set aside the airbag so that we can get back to working on the steering wheel. Here's a closer look at this step here. All I did was take a small screwdriver or some type of pin. You can just get under there and lift these up, both ends here, and then you'll be able to just unplug them. So the main thing is getting this orange tab up to unlock them, then you'll be able to pull them off. Ground is disconnected, these 2 plugs are disconnected, and everything's still being held in by this plastic clip here. And then there is just a little tab here that you'll be able to hit, and then you should be able to remove this from here. Now that the airbag module is out of the way, we can go ahead onto the next steps, which is going to be removing the controls from the steering wheel and then removing the steering wheel itself. To remove the controls, what we're going to have to do is remove these 2 Phillips screws here, and then we're going to just go ahead and pull this back, and there's going to be a connector up here that we'll have to manipulate as we're pulling out to unclip. And then the steering wheel itself is held on with a 10mm hex, which is in the center right here. So I'll use the power tool to help get this off pretty quickly, and then we'll go ahead and start swapping things over. So one thing to note too when you're doing this install, make sure you're trying to keep your steering wheel straight with your wheels, so that way when we're putting the new steering wheel on, there's no issues in terms of alignment. So just a tip before you get too deep into this project. If you have a trim tool remover, that might be helpful in this case. And then also I have a steering wheel cover, so it's keeping mine in there. All right, there we go. And then this is the connector that I mentioned earlier. It should just be, there's a tab up here. Just press on that and you should be able to pull the whole thing out. Run the wires back through. There you go. Controls are out, ready to be swapped over to the new one. And then we'll go ahead and remove the steering wheel itself. So I've got a 10mm hex. Alright, once you break the bolt free, as you can see it's not very long, it's about 1 inch or so, the steering wheel itself will be ready to be pulled straight out, and then you just have to run the wire through. This back piece of the steering wheel, this black plastic here, we are going to have to transplant to the new steering wheel, but we'll go ahead and do that step towards the end when we're putting the new steering wheel back in. Now what we're going to work on is swapping out this factory sensor with the new sensor that comes with the kit. And then to do that, what we're going to have to do is open up this column here. There's going to be 2 screws here and then 1 at the bottom, and we'll be able to remove this whole plastic shroud, and then we'll be able to access this and be able to disconnect this a lot easier. Alright, so shroud is removed. Overall pretty simple. It was the 3 screws. And then we're going to be going ahead and removing this. So just looking at the new one, it looks like it's going to be held in with these body clips and then a clip at the very top right here. So we should just be able to yank on it and it should pop right out, and then we'll disconnect these wires at the bottom and then switch this over. So let's go ahead and just give it a nice tug. A nice tug on that side. That one's removed. So as you can see, it came off pretty easy. I'll just go ahead and unplug these and switch over into the new one. So just a little bit of detail on how to remove this particular clip, just because this is the first time I've seen something like this. There is a tab here in the middle that you press down. It's almost spring loaded, and you'll hold that down to remove this plug. So let me do that one-handed. There, and then these ones here, the remaining 2 are pretty simple. You'll just add a little bit of pressure on the clip and then they should pop right out. So there you go. Now all of the wires are disconnected, and then again just pull on it, and then there's a clip at the top. And then down here, looks like these wires are just run through a little clip. The wires that were hooked behind the original piece back here, as you can see this clip here, it turns out it was another plug for this module here. And so there is a total of 4 plugs going into this steering wheel sensor. So there's this one that I just removed off the back. These 2 are on the left side. This one is on the right side. And upon removing this, it looks like we'll be having to switch over this module itself over to the new sensor. So to remove this module, it's actually a lot easier. It's just, there's a couple clips throughout. You'll just put a little screwdriver or something to pry it up, and you'll be able to remove it like this. So this is the piece that you're going to be recovering from the factory sensor, and then you'll be bringing this over to the new one, and it should just pop back in the same way you removed the old one. It looks like there are grooves in here, so that should index with these teeth right there, and then that's how you know that it's properly aligned. New assembly has been completely reconnected. As you can see there, 4 plugs. Pop this back in. Just takes a little bit of you just have to push it in and it'll click. So now we can move over to the steering wheel itself and start moving the steering wheel over. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to need to salvage this back piece from the original steering wheel to put over to the new steering wheel. But while I have them off, let's do a quick comparison of the 2 steering wheels. So from the side, as you can see, compared to the factory one, the new steering wheel from Car Trim Home is a little bit thicker. It's also a D-shaped steering wheel, which means it has the flat bottom down here, kind of like a race car. And also you can see that around here, around the 3 and 9 position, that there is a little bit more of a, there's some thickness here, some girth for your thumbs and better grippage overall. My factory one, I've had a steering wheel cover on it since day one, so thickness wise is about the same as I'm used to, but this one doesn't require a cover to get to that thickness. Weight wise seems about the same, so it's not going to notice a difference in weight. So going back to the shroud itself, the way we're going to remove this is going to be held in by a couple of clips. So these here on each side, you're just going to kind of squeeze it and then pop it through on both sides, and then the clips down here. All right, so before I go ahead and put the steering wheel back in, I'm going to go ahead and run the wiring harness for the heated element through the hole down here, and then run it down towards this corner where the fuse box is located. On this harness, one end you'll have the plug that will go towards the steering wheel, and then on the other end you'll have the switch, and then also the add a fuse and your ground. Whenever I do any interior mods, this question always comes up, and it's about the orange trim that I have. And the reason I have orange trim and also the orange stitching is because this is a 2019 Toyota RAV4 Adventure model. The Adventure models came with the orange interior. That's actually one of the things that sold me on this car, because honestly the blue for me initially was too bright. That wasn't my thing, but I liked how it went with the orange. And then on the TRD off-roads, which came I believe a year or two later, those have the red interior. So that's why you'll see a variance in the color of the trim on some of these RAV4s based on the trim package that you purchased. So to run the button, I decided to run mine towards the second spot right here. To do that, you can just wedge a screwdriver in between the two spots of the blank that you're trying to get in there to get, and then it should just pop off. Make sure you disconnect the button itself from the harness, and then you'll go ahead and just slot this through, and it should just click into place. So there you go, in that spot, and then you'll be able to wire the back of it into here. As you can see, even though these are blank slots, it looks like there's plugs in here, so I couldn't tell you, but it looks like you'd be able to wire a couple of the features that, at least on the Adventure, that there's wiring pre-run to these buttons. So I'm not sure if that helps at all with this particular install. I'm just going to be using the aftermarket kit that came with the steering wheel, and then put everything back together. So have that run through, the other end sticking out right here. We're going to go ahead and tap into the fuse box down here, put everything back together, and everything should be good to go. So a little bit more information on how to actually wire the heating element. So this is what you receive in the kit, and with this makes installation a lot easier. You don't really have to splice into any wiring. So I will attempt to show you what the fuse box looks like at the top of this, but the angle is going to be pretty rough for filming. But as you can see, it already comes with a 7.5 amp fuse connected to it, and then basically all you're going to need to do is in the fuse box pull one of the 7.5 amp fuses, and you're going to place this in its place, put that fuse in here so that this will have two fuses, and then you'll plug this into that, and then that's how you'll get power. For the ground, what I've done is behind this bolt, with this bolt that holds up this trim here, there is a piece of metal that connects to the body. This is not the ideal spot to do a ground, but hopefully the location works. If not, I'll pop back in and I'll make an update. Typically you want it on an unpainted piece of metal on the body, but hopefully, again, this one hopefully works, and we'll go from there. Now that the harness is hooked up to the power and the ground, we're just going to hook this up to the steering wheel module right here. It should just slide in. There you go. And then now we can put the shroud all back together and then put the steering wheel back on. Steering wheel is fitted back in. Make sure everything is straight the way you found it. The only additional connection at this point is going to be the new plug that's coming out of the steering wheel going into the new hub over here. I just ran the wire which comes out from the bottom of the steering wheel here towards the back of this frame and tucked everything back there. And then I'll go ahead and put the controls back on and then the airbag back on. I'll hook the battery back up and then we'll start testing. All right, so everything is hooked back up. I hooked the battery back up, as you can see over there. The button itself has a light, so that means it's working. And I've given it about a minute or two, and I can already start feeling that the steering wheel is heating up. Overall, super easy install. I would say difficulty wise, it was maybe a 3 out of 10. Car Trim Home actually offers these to where you can customize them to your own styling. I went with an all black version. They have a version that has a stripe down here so you can maintain center. There's also different options for stitching. This one, as you can see, it went all black. There's a bunch of other accessories that I would highly recommend checking out on Car Trim Home while you're checking out the steering wheel, such as the blacked out emblem. This is just an emblem that has some 3M tape that you can stick on there to cover up the chrome. Obviously, it looks a lot better all blacked out. Some other accessories that I got from Car Trim Home are a charger here, so it adds an additional USB charger. This tray here is pretty awesome. This is from Car Trim Home as well, to provide a little bit of additional organization. And then within here, it's a little dirty, but there's a tray in here that I got from them. So yeah, super easy install. Definitely heating up now. I can feel it. Just in time. We're in winter here in California. Unfortunately, there's a bunch of wildfires going on at the moment because it has been a dry season overall. Hoping that it gets a little bit colder to really utilize this feature. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I will talk to you guys soon.